ladies and gentlemen, love, that elusive, powerful force, is often spoken about as if it strikes like lightning, sudden and uncontrollable. We hear stories of love at first sight, instant attraction and immediate devotion. But the truth about when a man truly falls in love is far more profound, complex and, yes, surprising. Men truly fall in love when they recognize their hidden, unconscious self reflected in another. A phenomenon that goes far beyond simple attraction or superficial connection. Because beneath the surface of what most people perceive as love lies a profound psychological experience. A meeting not just of two bodies or two personalities, but of two inner worlds, where the hidden depths of a man's unconscious psyche find resonance and recognition in another person's presence. And this reflection often happens in subtle, almost imperceptible ways, through shared moments of vulnerability, unspoken understandings, or the quiet acknowledgement of fears and desires that a man might not even fully be aware of in himself, until they emerge in the presence of someone else who accepts them without judgment. And this is why love cannot be forced or rushed, for it is not simply a matter of chemistry or mutual interests, but an unfolding journey toward deeper self-awareness, where a man begins to see parts of himself mirrored in the eyes, gestures, or even the silence of the one he loves, which awakens within him a sense of wholeness and acceptance that he may have long sought but never fully found until that point. This process involves the recognition of what psychologists might call the shadow side of the personality, the parts of ourselves that we tend to hide, deny, or disown because they are uncomfortable or socially unacceptable. Yet these very parts contain valuable truths and emotional energy that, once integrated through the experience of being seen and accepted by another, contribute to the growth of authentic love. And this reflection of the unconscious self in another person creates a powerful sense of intimacy and trust, a space where a man can lower his defenses and allow himself to be truly known, without the fear of rejection or ridicule, which is why many relationships that begin with superficial attraction often fail to evolve into lasting love, because they lack this deeper connection that involves the mutual acceptance of each other's hidden complexities, fears, and imperfections. It is through this process that a man feels safe enough to reveal his true self, beyond the masks worn for the outside world, and in doing so, he experiences a sense of liberation and emotional fulfillment that transcends physical desire. So the moment when a man falls in love is really the moment when he experiences this rare and transformative encounter, where his unconscious self finds a mirror in another person. A reflection that brings to light parts of himself that had previously been invisible or fragmented, and in recognizing this reflection, he is compelled to embrace both the light and dark aspects of his being, which allows him to form a bond that is not only passionate, but also grounded in authenticity and mutual growth. This is why love, in its deepest sense, is not simply about finding someone who fits our ideal or meets our expectations, but about discovering a connection that challenges us to become more whole, more aware, and more compassionate toward ourselves and others. And this process can be unsettling, because it asks us to confront parts of ourselves that may be painful or uncomfortable. But it is precisely this willingness to face the inner shadows that opens the door to true intimacy and love. So men often find themselves falling in love not when everything is perfect or easy, but when they meet someone who allows them to explore their inner depths without fear. A person who reflects back their true self with kindness and acceptance, encouraging growth and healing in ways that no superficial attraction ever could. And in this way, love becomes a journey of self-discovery as much as it is a bond between two people, where the recognition of the unconscious self in another acts as a catalyst for profound transformation, leading to a love that is enduring, meaningful, and deeply fulfilling, far beyond the fleeting excitement of initial attraction or infatuation. Love begins with the courage to face and accept one's own vulnerabilities and imperfections, a truth that challenges the common belief that love is only about joy, beauty, and happiness, because real love demands something far deeper than just good feelings or shared moments of pleasure, and instead calls for an inner bravery that many find difficult to summon, since embracing vulnerability means exposing the parts of ourselves that we usually keep hidden out of fear of rejection, judgment, or shame. And this process is not easy for anyone, but especially for men who have often been conditioned to hide weakness, and present an image of strength and control. Yet true love asks for the exact opposite. It invites openness, honesty, and the willingness to show one's imperfections without apology or fear. In this act of courage, if the foundation upon which deep emotional intimacy is built, because when a man allows himself to be vulnerable, he creates space for genuine connection rather than superficial interaction, and it is through this vulnerability that both partners can come to understand and appreciate each other's true selves, rather than a carefully crafted facade, or a socially acceptable mask. Accepting imperfections in oneself is an essential part of this courageous act, as it requires a man to confront the parts of his character, past mistakes, fears, and limitations that may have been a source of shame or denial. And rather than running away from these uncomfortable truths, love encourages him to embrace them as aspects of his humanity that deserve compassion and care, and by doing so, he begins to heal wounds that might have previously kept him emotionally guarded and distant from others. This healing process is transformative because it shifts love from being about idealized fantasy to a grounded, authentic experience where both partners can grow individually and together. The courage to accept vulnerability and imperfection also means understanding that love is not about finding a perfect person, but about creating a safe space where both individuals can be fully themselves, flaws and all, without fear of abandonment or criticism. And this safety allows in ways that go beyond physical attraction or intellectual compatibility, since it touches the very core of what it means to be human and to be seen and accepted unconditionally. Moreover, this acceptance breaks down walls of isolation and loneliness that many men unknowingly build around their hearts in an effort to protect themselves, but which ultimately prevent true connection. The paradox of love is that in surrendering control and opening up to uncertainty and imperfection, a man discovers strength and freedom, unlike anything he has experienced before, and this strength is not the kind that dominates or controls but the kind that flows from inner peace, self-acceptance and trust in the bond shared with another. Love's call to vulnerability also challenges cultural narratives about masculinity that equate emotional expression with weakness, and instead redefines strength as the willingness to be open and honest, to share fears, hopes, and dreams without pretense or fear of judgment. And when a man rises to this challenge, he not only deepens his relationship, but also inspires those around him to embrace their own vulnerabilities, thus creating a ripple effect of healing and connection. As love, the courage to remain vulnerable and accept imperfections becomes a daily practice rather than a one-time event, because relationships inevitably bring up old wounds and insecurities, but with a foundation of mutual acceptance and trust. These challenges can be met with empathy and understanding rather than defensiveness or withdrawal. This ongoing commitment to vulnerability transforms love into a living, evolving force that nurtures growth rather than stagnation. In this way, love becomes a path of self-discovery where courage is the compass that guides a man through the unknown terrain of his own heart, and the heart of another. And this journey is far from easy, but it is the only way to experience the depth, richness, and transformative power of true love. So it is not surprising that men often hesitate to fall in love, until they find the strength to face their vulnerabilities and imperfections head on, because without this courage, love remains superficial, fleeting, and unable to reach its fullest potential. But when a man embraces this truth, he opens himself to a love that is not only deeply fulfilling but also healing, life-changing, and ultimately liberating. True love is a deep, transformative connection beyond surface attraction or shared interests. Something that transcends the fleeting emotions and atom mistaken for love, because many people confuse infatuation or physical desire with the real essence of love, and this confusion can lead to disappointment or disillusionment, when the initial passion fades, and what remains is a shallow bond that cannot sustain itself. The nature of true love is far more complex and plants that draw people together, but the innermost parts of their being resides, and this connection is rarely immediate or obvious but unfolds slowly over time as two people gradually reveal themselves more fully. It is in this gradual unveiling that love grows from a fragile seed into a sturdy tree capable. Outfold withers and lives forever. True love asks for more than simply enjoying common hobbies, agreeing on certain views, or admiring physical beauty, because these factors alone can create companionship or attraction. But they rarely lead to the kind of profound bond that transforms lives. The transformative nature of real love means that both partners change through their connection. Not because one molds the other, but because they create a space where each person feels safe enough to grow, heal, and evolve into a fuller expression of themselves. And this kind of growth is often spared by the challenges and tensions that arise within the relationship as conflicts and differences expose hidden wounds and unresolved issues. Yet rather than tearing the bond apart, these difficulties become opportunities for deeper understanding and connection, when approached with openness and empathy. The depth of true love also involves an acceptance of paradoxes and contradictions within each other, acknowledging that no one is perfect and that love must hold space for flaws, mistakes and imperfections without judgment or conditions, and this radical acceptance fosters a sense of safety and trust that allows love to flourish beyond superficial levels. The transformative connection of true love is not something that controlled or manufactured, but emerges organically when two souls meet in a way that resonates with their inner truth and authenticity, and this meeting touches something sacred within each person, awakening a sense of belonging and meaning that goes far beyond what can be seen or measured. It is this sacred quality of love that often brings a feeling of peace and wholeness, a sense that one has found a home not just in another person, but in the shared space between them, where both can be fully known and accepted. In this shared space, love becomes a mirror reflecting not only the beauty, but also the shadows and hidden depths of each partner. And through this reflection, each person gains insight into their own inner world, recognizing parts of themselves that were previously unconscious or denied, and this mutual reflection encourages self-awareness and growth that enriches both individuals and their relationship. This profound connection also fosters compassion and empathy, because understanding the inner struggles and vulnerabilities of another awakens a deep kindness and patience that softens judgments and defenses. And as a result, love becomes a healing force that can mend old wounds and create new possibilities for happiness and fulfillment. True love challenges the illusion that love is effortless or always pleasant by revealing that it requires work, patience, and commitment to nurture and sustain this depth of connection. But the rewards of this effort are immeasurable, because it leads to a partnership where both people feel supported, valued, and deeply connected in ways that nourish the minds, hearts, and spirits. This kind of love is rare and precious precisely because it demands honesty, vulnerability, and courage, and when it is found and nurtured, it transforms ordinary life into something extraordinary, filling it with meaning, joy, and a profound sense of belonging that transcends time and circumstance. So understanding that true love is more than just attraction or shared interests, helps to shift expectations and encourages men to seek a connection that will challenge, inspire, and transform them rather than settle for something superficial and fleeting. Because only in this depth can love reach its fullest potential, and become a source of lasting fulfillment and growth. The shocking truth is that love requires embracing the shadow, the darker, often unseen parts of ourselves. And this is a reality that challenges the idealized image of love as something purely beautiful, light, and effortless, because in truth, love asks us to confront the aspects of ourselves that we usually hide away, deny, or reject out of fear and discomfort, and these shadow parts may include our fears, insecurities, anger, jealousy, and all the emotions and traits that society often teaches us to suppress or avoid acknowledging. Yet these parts are integral to who we are, and refusing to face them only leads to fragmentation and distance from our true selves. When a man falls in love, he is not just drawn to the light and positive qualities in another, but is also confronted by the shadows that person brings into the relationship, and in doing so, he must come face to face with his own shadows. Because love acts like a mirror, reflecting not only what is beautiful and desirable, but also what is painful and hidden within us. This confrontation can be unsettling and even frightening, because it demands honesty, courage to recognize the parts of ourselves that we might prefer to keep buried. But it is through this process that healing and integration begin. The shadow holds tremendous power because it contains repressed emotions, unresolved conflicts, and denied parts of our personality that influence our thoughts, behaviors, and relationships, often without our conscious awareness. And when these shadow elements remain unconscious, they can sabotage love by causing misunderstandings, mistrust, or emotional distance. But when a man is willing to embrace his shadow in the context of love, he allows these hidden parts to be brought into the light, examined, and integrated into his conscious self, which leads to greater wholeness and authenticity. Embracing the shadow is not about becoming consumed by darkness or negativity, but about acknowledging that every human being carries both light and dark within them. And true love respects and holds space for this complexity without judgment or denial. This acceptance creates a profound sense of safety in a relationship, because it shows that both partners can be vulnerable and authentic without fear of rejection or condemnation. And this vulnerability is the foundation of deep trust and connection. When a man embraces the shadow within himself and sees the shadow in his partner, it opens the door to compassion, empathy, and understanding, because he realizes that these darker parts are not flaws to be fixed or hidden away, but essential pieces of the human experience that deserve love and care. In this way, love becomes a transformative journey, where both individuals help each other face their shadows, heal old wounds, and grow beyond limiting patterns. This process also breaks the illusion of perfection that often traps people in shallow relationships or unrealistic expectations and replaces it with a deeper, more realistic view of love as an ongoing process of acceptance, forgiveness and growth. Embracing the shadow challenges cultural narratives that glorify only the bright and positive aspects of love and masculinity, and instead calls for a more balanced and honest understanding that includes the complexity of human emotions and experiences. This recognition can be freeing because it allows men to move on the need to appear strong, invulnerable, or perfect and instead to embrace their full humanity with all its contradictions and nuances. Love's invitation to embrace the shadow also encourages self-reflection and inner work, prompting a man to become more aware of his triggers, defenses, and unconscious patterns that influence how he relates to himself and others. This awareness fosters emotional maturity and resilience that strengthen the foundation of love and connection. Without embracing the shadow, love risks becoming shallow or conditional, based only on the pleasing or acceptable parts of a person. But with shadow integration, love becomes a sacred space where all aspects of the self can be known, accepted and transformed. This is the shocking truth about love that many overlook or fear to acknowledge, but which holds the key to lasting intimacy and profound connection. So the moment a man truly falls in love is when he faces not only the light in another, but also the shadow within both himself and his partner, and in doing so, he embarks on a journey that challenges, deepens, and ultimately enriches the experience of love in ways that are both humbling and beautiful. Real love invites growth, authenticity and profound emotional connection. And this is a truth that often goes unrecognized because many people approach love with expectations based on romance novels, movies or social media, where love is portrayed as effortless, perfect and unchanging, but in reality love is a living, evolving force that requires both partners to engage deeply with themselves and each other in ways that encourage transformation and self-discovery rather than stagnation or illusion. True love is a dynamic process where two individuals come together not to complete each other, but to support each other's journey toward becoming their fullest and most authentic selves. And this process begins with authenticity, which means showing up as who you really are, your strengths, your flaws, your fears, and your hopes, and allowing the other person to do the same without judgment or pretense. This level of honesty can be frightening, because it exposes vulnerability. But it also creates the fertile ground for a connection that's real and sustainable, because it is based on truth rather than fantasy or facade. When love invites authenticity, it also invites growth, as each person is encouraged to confront their own limitations, blind spots and unresolved wounds. And through the support and challenge of the relationship, they are inspired to heal, evolve, and expand beyond old patterns that may have kept them stuck or disconnected from their true selves. This growth is not always comfortable, as it often involves facing painful emotions, difficult conversations and moments of uncertainty. But it is precisely this willingness to engage with discomfort and change that allows love to deepen and mature. A profound emotional connection arises from this shared commitment to authenticity and growth, because it fosters a sense of safety and trust where both partners feel seen, heard, and valued in their entirety. And this kind of connection transcends superficial interactions or transactional relationships by touching the core of what it means to be human. Our need for belonging, understanding, and unconditional acceptance. Real love is partnership where both individuals are free to explore their inner worlds and express their true feelings, knowing that they will be met with empathy and respect rather than criticism or rejection. This openness strengthens the bond and creates a cycle of mutual support and compassion that nourishes the relationship even through challenges and setbacks. Moreover, when love invites growth and authenticity, it encourages both partners to take responsibility for their own emotional well-being and personal development, rather than relying solely on the other person to fulfill their needs or fix their problems. This sense of individual responsibility creates a balanced and healthy dynamic, where love becomes a source of empowerment rather than dependency. Through this process, love transforms from a static state into a continual unfolding of connection and discovery, where each day brings new opportunities to learn about oneself and the other, and to deepen the emotional intimacy that sustains the relationship over time. It is important to understand that this invitation to growth and authenticity is not a demand or pressure, but a gentle encouragement that comes from the desire to live and love fully. And when both partners embrace this invitation, they co-create a relationship that is vibrant, resilient, and deeply fulfilling. Real love also challenges the cultural myth that love is about perfection or avoiding conflict by showing that true intimacy requires facing difficulties with openness and grace. It is through navigating challenges together that couples develop greater understanding, patience, and emotional maturity. And this shared journey fosters a bond that can withstand life's inevitable ups and downs. Finally, love that invites growth, authenticity, and profound connection is not limited to romantic relationships, but can be found in friendships, family bonds, and even the relationship we have with ourselves. Because at its core, love is about honoring the fullness of life and embracing the ever-changing nature of being human. So the shocking truth about when a man truly falls in love is that is the moment when he is ready to embark on this ongoing journey of authenticity, growth, and deep emotional connection. A journey that transforms not only the relationship but also the very essence of who he is becoming through love's powerful and enduring embrace. In closing, the moment a man truly falls in love is not when everything is perfect but when he embraces imperfection, in himself and in the one he loves. That is the shocking truth about love. It is an invitation to growth, acceptance, and profound connection. Thank you.